Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Looks like another lovely day on board, but it's not completely clear sky. There's already some stripes flying through the air across the sky above me. But some of you that you may not be onto that, so I won't go too deep into that this morning. This immigration thing that we've been talking about for weeks, for years now. I've been talking about this on this channel for several years, of the importance of and the danger of what's happening, especially at our southern border. The governor of my state here that I'm standing in right now, Missouri, announced yesterday that he's sending 200 and some National Guard troops down to the southern border, and 22, I think, 22 Missouri Highway Patrolmen down to Texas's southern border to assist Texas in securing the border, at least in certain parts of their border. This is becoming a much bigger topic over the last several weeks. In fact, most of you are quite aware that there's been a lot of serious talk now about secession and civil war and all kinds of stuff due to this, that Texas is basically thumbing their nose at the U.S. government, saying that they are going to shut down the border and close it. I mean, at least in certain parts. But there's still a lot coming through. It was just a couple of days ago that it announced that since Biden has taken office, there's been 7.2 million illegals come across the border. Now, again, like I said yesterday when I was talking about this, I don't like repeating myself, but I've dealt with people long enough that I know that sometimes you have to tell them 2 or 3 times before it sinks in. I'm not saying that's you. I'm just saying sometimes you have to. That 7.2 million that they're saying, number one, that's a government number. Probably about as accurate as the 3.1 or 3.2% inflation rate that they're saying that we have. Also, that number is basically only reflecting the southern border, and only the ones that they apprehend and make contact with. So the actual number of migrants, illegal migrants that's crossed our borders, could be significantly higher, actually. But let's just say, for instance, 7.2 million. That's a lot. I mean, that's a major. That would be the second largest city in the United States. That would be a large state. I think the report said that that's as many as 36 states in the union. That's a lot, 7.2 million, but it's probably a lot higher than that. Also, I was looking around. Did you know that the end of January of this year, the United Nations announced that they were going to be spending about almost $375 million towards migrants. These are basically cash vouchers, these little debit cards that they're giving them. I've reported a couple of years ago that the United Nations was on the southern side of the border, and they were assisting. So as they came close to the border, they had tents and booths and offices and things like that with UN workers. And this was reported in the mainstream news. In fact, it's on the United Nations website. So this isn't some big conspiracy. It's on their website. They brag about it. That they provide counseling, advice, and paperwork to help migrants come across the border easier, and then what to do when they get inside the border. What do they say to, Border Patrol? Where do they go once they get inside the United States? So all that's happening, and we've got an administration that keeps deflecting, saying that, well, it's the former president's fault that the border is happening. Well, you need to pass some more laws to get me some more authority, even though many previous presidents have had no issues with taking care of the border. Maybe not 100% effectively, but they still seem to have the authority to go down there and send enough people and make enough policies put into place that it reduces the flow that's coming across the border. So my point is that if you haven't figured it out yet, which I know most of you have, I think this is very much orchestrated. They're trying to, I mean, for various reasons. Number one, I think they see long term it's a large voting bloc for the Democrats, but I think it's way worse than that. It's way more nefarious than just a bunch of voters. Because here's the thing, this is the reason why that's not. I don't believe that's the main reason, is because they showed us the last election what they can do to control elections. Why do they need millions of more voters? I mean, there were millions of dead voters already. Why do they need millions of more live voters? But it's more nefarious than that. They want to disrupt the system. Even if every one of these illegals that are coming across the border were good, honest, hardworking, non-criminal people. Let's just say every single one of them. Even if they were truly good, wholesome people, just the fact that many increase and that much increase in number into any area, and I know that's not 7.2 million in one area, but they're distributed across the country. It's a strain on the system. The systems cannot handle it. The local police, the local fire, the local hospitals, the local food, grocery stores, the local schools, the local highway department, none of it can handle the influx. They can handle a little bit here and there, and then they kind of expand and grow with the expansion of people. But when it's an overnight thing, hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands that are pretty much overnight in their city, they can't handle it. So it's breaking things down. It's also replacement. It's population replacement. If you look, I believe it was last year, the numbers came out that there were more people coming across the border illegally than were born in the United States. That's a problem. We're replacing our population with people from third world countries that do not have American values at heart. They're here to maybe a better life, but they don't come here with this American value life. So we're being replaced. We're watching our country just be destroyed, at least in some cities. I mean, look at even these liberal cities, how they talk about it. New York, Chicago, so on and so forth. They're all over, and they're falling apart. Neighborhoods are just degrading rapidly. The amount of violent crime, the drugs, the human trafficking, all of it. It's all getting worse, and it's getting worse really fast. This is all part of the plan, folks. Never forget that. Never forget this is a planned destruction. They know, and I've said this for years now on this channel, they know that America is the biggest, the best, the strongest, but more importantly, America is a country full of, at least traditionally, very freedom, independent-minded people. And they're not going to be able to fully enact some kind of great reset Agenda 2030 or whatever it is, beast system, it doesn't matter. They're not going to be able to get that fully deployed, if America is still standing strong, because odds are if America's strong, it's not going to comply with all this kind of stuff. It typically doesn't. And so the only way to get America to comply is to bring America to her knees. And once America complies with all of this globalist nonsense, then all of these other countries, or at least many of them, most of them, will fall into place. And they say, well, if America does it, we see what happened to America because she stood up against it. Well, we better comply also. And that, in my opinion, is one of the real core reasons of why all of this is happening. That's why we're seeing what happened during COVID, where they forced shut down, thousands and thousands of businesses. Many of them never reopened again. The loss of property, where people lost their homes because they lost their jobs, because the jobs where they were forced not to go to work. All of the stuff that's happening, it's planned destruction, folks. And I know that most of you get that. I know you see it. I know you understand it probably better than maybe even I or most people. But we can't forget that. We can't forget when all of this stuff that's happening, it's all part of a big plan to destroy America. And I personally believe that there's not really anything stopping at this point. I think that we're far too gone, that we're past that threshold of no return. I mean, it's possible that, the right guy could get into office and maybe slow it down, but I don't think there's any stopping it at this point. And the way things are looking and the dates that they have given that they want this stuff to be fully enacted, 2030, and have it pretty much up and going by 2027, means we don't have much longer. We just don't. Even if, let's just say we don't see some big, huge, destructive thing happen this year, and it doesn't happen until very close to 2030. That's still not that far away, folks. I mean, we're still talking, only 6 years away. And I would guess the average person, if you told them, hey, you've got 6 years till the world ends, you've got 6 years before, some massive destructive force happens, a big asteroid hits, and you have to be able to be fully sustainable. You have to be able to survive all that, and you have 6 years. That may sound like a lot of time, but it's really not. And so even if the furthest out, even if we have 6 years, that's still not a lot of time. I mean, I think of where we're at right now on this property. We purchased this property almost 4 years ago. And while we're definitely pretty self-sustaining for the most part, are we ready? Are there things that I would like to get done still? Of course, I've got a project list as long as my leg. And so it takes a lot more than you think. And the reality is it could be a whole lot less than 6 years. It could be 6 months, could be 6 weeks. And I'm not trying to terrorize anyone. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to help you realize that even really the best case scenario right now, it doesn't look very good. And it shows that we don't have a lot of time left. So we need to be putting a lot of focus in the preparations. You need to be trying to figure out how you can be as self-sustaining as possible. How much food can you produce? Do you have the means to preserve that food, canning, drying, dehydrating, freeze drying, whatever it is you want to do or can do? Animals, what kind of animals can you raise for meat production? Water, do you have a water source, good clean water source? Do you have a way to get the water source and purify the water source? Medical stuff, other things that you just need, the tools that you would need to do to stay alive, that, maybe non-electric stuff, saws and hammers and chisels and hand crank drills and things like that you don't use anymore, but you might need them. Or just having tools and having the ability to fix and repair things, because we're going to need that. Do you have the ability to secure your property? Do you have some training, or are you training with the right tools to protect yourself? Have you built relationships with other people? Have you found other people and built relationships with them and built some levels of trust and talk about how you can mutually help each other to make it through all this? This is the kind of stuff that you should be doing, because I don't think we got a lot longer left. Above all, you need to be preparing yourselves mentally and especially spiritually. Because in the end, like I've said so many times before, this is spiritual warfare. That's what we're experiencing. This is a physical manifestation of spiritual warfare. And so not only do we need to be ready physically for what we're going to see, we're going to need to be ready spiritually for what we're going to experience. And it could be a great toll on us. And so don't take that part of preparations lightly. Folks, you need to get your houses in order and prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.